Hello, everybody. My name is Francesco. I'm a postdoc scientist in the group of Sarah O'Connor in the Max Planck Institute of Vienna. And I'm here. Thank you for inviting me for this Scientist Explain exclamation mark. I'm happy to talk about what I do, what about natural products that are present in plants, and yes, I will try explaining you what natural products are and why they are very useful for us, and how we investigate them, their biosynthesis. So how do plants produce them? But since the title of the talk is The Incredible Chemistry of Plants, I thought to share this thought with you, that personally I find probably the most common and well-known chemical reaction of plants the most remarkable. I'm talking about photosynthesis. And photosynthesis basically says that with carbon dioxide and water, they can come together through using the energy from the sun to produce sugar, glucose here, and oxygen. And this reaction can be simplified by saying that trees are made of air and light. And I think this is profoundly beautiful. I think this adds a layer of beauty to the world when you think about that all living matter, me, you, everything, is made of air and sunlight, literally. Okay, but let's move on. Let's just jump on the real topic, which is natural products. And natural products are divided in different categories according to their chemical nature or how they are synthesized. And I'm sure if you look carefully enough in this list that I'm displaying here, you will find some very common compounds that you know, such as penicillin, for example, which is an antibiotic, or nicotine, which is in tobacco, or cocaine or caffeine, which are very strong stimulant, or these very smelly and perfume terpenes like menthol, camphor, which are responsible for the aroma and smell of plants and flowers. So metabolism, it's complicated. It's very complicated, and it's really a labyrinth of chemical reaction and compounds. And so what we do is we distinguish between primary metabolism and secondary metabolism. And natural compound belong to the secondary metabolism. So I will quickly distinguish between these two. So with primary metabolism, we mean all these fundamental chemical reaction that happens in most of organisms. Basically, they are all shared from bacteria to mammals, and they are necessary for life because no organisms could live without proteins or without DNA or with membrane. Can you imagine a cell without a membrane? It's impossible. So primary metabolism is necessary for life. And that's not true for secondary metabolism. And I think a good example is the pepper here. So we have bell pepper and we have chili pepper. And you know, they are in the given condition, they are healthy plants, they grow well, they are fine. But there is a fundamental difference between the two, which is one, when you eat, is fresh and you feel fine and you are ready to go, basically. And the other one is, if you take a bite, you could regret it, yeah, because you burn. And that's because the chili pepper produces capsaicin, which is this natural compound that makes pain and sense of heat in your mouth. And you see, the bell pepper lives a happy life without producing capsaicin, but the chili pepper has a weapon, as a deterrent, is this advantage that, you know, it can be useful because it defends itself from predatory. So yeah, secondary metabolites are not necessary for life, but they are very useful. Or it's not only defense, of course, it's also communication. So imagine a beautiful rose that is not only beautiful and colorful, but it also produces smelly compounds and volatiles that are recognized, and they attract pollinators and beneficial insects for the plant. So there is a whole communication and war and dancing that is happening right now among plants and microorganisms. And yes, and I want to. So animals as well. There are some examples of animal producing natural compounds, mostly peptides or toxin. Yes. Mm, but animals are not the greatest natural product producer. It's mostly the domain of plants and fungi and bacteria and protozoa that are the real natural product producer. Because when you think about it, animals, when they have a problem, they can just leave. They just take and leave. Plants and fungi and bacteria, they have to solve their problem where they are. So they are the way they deal with their problem is through these chemical resources. Yeah. So natural products have been used since the dawn of time from us, from humans, because they can be used as medicine. They can be used to make our crops grow richer. Like we want our crops to be free from pests, from insects. They have been used for hunting. Like so many times I've been in the jungle looking for a frog because I wanted my arrow to be more poisonous. Or they are very tasty. If you think about any spice, there is a natural product in it. If you think about chili pepper or cinnamon, you say one, or garlic, you can say anything. You will find some natural product there. Or they smell good, yes, like flower and pine trees. They are very pleasant for us. And of course, there are as well mind-altering substances that have been used since a long, long time for magic rituals or rite of passage, and yes, to visit the world, the underworld, or the world of the spirit. Yes. So they really are present in every aspect of our life, and they're really, really important. And for example, in medicine, most of the drugs that we use, or prescription drugs that we use, are derived from natural products, are not man-made. So here I just report some examples, like vinblastine is one of the few treatments we have for cancer, and it's produced by a plant called Catharanthus roseus. Or we have morphine, which is a very powerful analgesic produced by the poppy flower, and this is great for surgery, for example, because you can be cut in two and feel no pain, which is amazing if you think about it. Or we have compound to treat diseases and like malaria infections, like artemisinin, for example. And I want to report this example, very famous, which is aspirin. I think all of us have taken aspirin once in our life. So the real natural compound that you find in the plant is not aspirin, it's salicin. And salicin is also anti-inflammatory, and it has been discovered thousands of years ago. And what humans have done, once they found this compound, salicin, they have modified it. They've taken the scaffold and they put an acetate there, oxidized this carbon here, and they got aspirin. That maybe is more stable, has a better availability to the body, has advantages. So what I'm trying to say is nature is a source of scaffold that chemists can modify to find new biological properties or better drugs. Yes, so these are other examples of compounds that interact with our brain. These are all very famous. So, and you can see they also have potential therapeutic usage, such as anti-addictive or antidepressant or pain reliever, or caffeine, which we all drink because we want to feel more awake, or nicotine is a very popular drug. I think tobacco is so spread that everybody likes it for that sweet dopamine rush that it gives. So what I'm trying to say with all this is that plants are great chemists. They do a variety of scaffolds. They produce so many different compounds. So how do they do it? How is it made? And the answer is enzymes. So here is an example from a bacterium. It's not from a plant, I admit. So let's take this. Okay, what are enzymes? Enzymes are protein. And if you don't know what proteins are, you can think about protein as a molecule, a big molecule that is inside the cell that makes some action. And enzyme in particular, they make chemical reaction. They are little chemists. So take this enzyme, for example, this protein here. It takes 7 units of this very simple building block or precursor, and it assembles them together to form this scaffold here. Then, once this is done, another enzyme comes in, another worker comes in, and install these 2 hydroxy group, this 2 OH group here. And then finally, a third worker comes and install these 2 sugars on the scaffold, and bam, you have erythromycin, you have an antibiotic. So this is how the biosynthesis happens inside the cell, through the action of these enzymes. And understanding the biosynthesis, it's very important for us because it makes us understand the mechanism of how reaction works, and it can lead us to a better understanding of how to do it ourselves. So I want to briefly talk about 2 ways of studying biosynthesis. One is called feeding experiment, by feeding, which is a quite traditional set of experiment that basically you provide to the plant or to the producing organism a building block that carries a label that you can follow, and then you track it down to see if it is incorporated in your final product. I will come to this with an example. And another approach is much more modern. It's molecular. It's through molecular biology, and basically you go in a simple way. You go and read the genetic information that sits inside the cells, and you try to replicate it or to copy it or modify it to see what happens afterwards. I will have an example later. So let's take this example with quinine. Quinine is a very famous antimalaric. Now it is used in gin tonic. And it's found in the roots and bark of the Cinchona officinalis roots, of cinchona trees in general. And in 1987, scientists gave to the roots of the plant, 2 building blocks that carried a label, and this label was radioactivity. So these compounds were radioactive. So they gave them this building block to the plants, wondering if they would be used to form quinine. And when they extracted quinine from the roots, they indeed found out that quinine was radioactive. So that means that the plant used those building blocks to produce quinine. And this is what it's telling us. This is telling us very important information, such as the plant used tryptamine and secologanine to produce quinine, so they are on the pathway. And you can start imagining what kind of reaction happens, what kind of oxidation or reduction happens in the plant to lead to the formation of the natural product. And then we have a molecular biology approach, and to understand that, I quickly explain a dogma of molecular biology. So imagine, you have a natural compound, let's say artemisinin, and as I said before, you have enzyme, and enzyme are making all the chemical reaction to produce artemisinin. But the enzymes, the information to produce the enzyme themselves lies in the DNA, so lies in the gene of the plant. So what we can do is we can take this information, we can copy this information, put it in another organism, produce the enzyme, and see if they perform a chemical reaction. So I will, for an example, I will mention how this antimalaric compound is produced nowadays. So, okay, imagine you have a plant, and the plant is producing the compound. But you want more of it, you are not satisfied with what you have, so it's too little, you want more. So you cannot do it chemically because it's too complicated, maybe. So what do? You take all the biosynthetic genes from the plant that you know, that you have discovered because you studied biosynthesis, and you put them into an host, like yeast, for example. And then the yeast, in the case of artemisinin, they could reproduce the pathway up to a certain point, not the whole thing, so it's a partial biosynthesis, to give artemisinic acid, which is much higher quantity, and those quantities can be converted chemically to the final compound, artemisinin. And this time it's much more reliable, and yes, you're happy. Okay. So I want to conclude by saying how nature is rich and important for us, because it is an endowment of natural compound, of molecules that could potentially save our life. And yes, because if you think about infectious disease or virus now, like with corona, or maybe you are depressed or something terrible happens to us, and this natural compound can really heal us or make our life much better. And understanding how these natural compounds are made unlocks their potential, because we can produce them in much better condition, much easier, with much less impact on the environment, because all these enzymatic reactions are very green, so they don't use solvents or heavy metals. They just use yeast, which you use to make bread or pizza. So, and so yeah, it is very important to understand, to learn from nature, and to make our life better. All right, so this is the end. If you have a question, I'm happy to try answering, and I hope you enjoyed.
On what compounds are you working yourself?
What compounds I'm using myself? Well, I cheated a little bit. I'm working on quinine. That I'm not doing this. This has been done. Also, labeling, radioactive labeling is something of the past. But yes, I'm on this part here. I'm looking for the enzymes that make the quinine, and yes, I'm putting them into different hosts and hope for the best. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me, and yeah, have a good time.